Good morning, folks. Hey, how you doing? I am going to share with you a little presentation on how to use your color pencils successfully. Most of you have used color pencils before, but when you do it, it may not be as successful as I'd like for you to be. So this year, when you picked up your Chromebook and your schedule, we gave you a little art kit in a bag. And one of the things that we gave middle school students was we gave you a package of the Crayola color pencils. So I wanted to go through a little mini lesson on how you can use those successfully. And there's 6 steps to that, or 6 skills that you need to know: pressure, stroke, layering, blending, highlight, and shadows. And we're going to go through those together. Okay? So let's get out of this screen. Hi, just so you know it's really me. Okay, so let me show you the supplies that you're going to need. You're going to need a piece of white paper. You are going to need a regular pencil, something circular that you can trace. I just chose to get a quarter, something kind of small for this. We gave you also a pencil sharpener in your case because you need just a little handheld pencil sharpener, and of course your color pencils. Also, I'm thinking we might talk about crayons at the end of this, because a lot of these techniques we're using for color pencils you can use for crayons as well. Okay, now I have a Sharpie in this so that you can see what I'm doing a little bit better, because sometimes the pencil doesn't always show up as well on the paper in the document camera here. Okay, but you won't need the Sharpie pencil. Alright, so the first step, or the first technique for our color pencils, was pressure. So I'm just going to write number 1 right here. I'm also going to zoom in a little bit so that you can see, and just like in the classroom, you guys tell me, oh, the camera is blurry. Give it just a minute and it will focus for us. Okay, number 1. First step was learning about pressure, and pressure is how hard you color. Okay, so how hard we're going to color. So the first thing I ask you to do is use your pencil and trace around your circle, whatever circular object you found. And in this case, I'm just using a quarter. I just pulled up out of my wallet. And I want you to trace it 3 times. Little trick on tracing. You should trace with your pencil straight up. Okay? Alright, under the first circle, let me move this out of the way. Under the first circle, I want you to write the word light. Second one is medium. And the last one is not dark, heavy. I'm used to saying light, medium, and dark. Light, medium, and heavy. Okay? That's another reason why it's good to use a pencil, because you can erase it. Okay. Now I want you to get out one of your color pencils, and we're just going to use red. You can use whatever color you would like. Suggest a darker color. Okay, I'm just using a red here. Alright, and in the first circle here, I'm just going to color very lightly. And if you are like me and you have a heavy hand, then you might want to hold your pencil a little further back, and it's a little easier. Okay, and you're just going to lightly color in this circle with light pressure, meaning I'm barely touching the paper. Lightly. And you kind of want to color in the same direction. Lightly. Okay? Alright, and then I'm going to color in the second box, and I'm going to move up just a little bit on my pencil. Then I'm going to color inside of here in the same direction I did the first time. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a medium pressure. Try to stay as neat as you can inside your circles. Okay. And then I'm going to go in the third box, and I can move up just a little bit closer, and I'm going to give it a little bit more pressure. A little bit heavier touch. And so even though I use the exact same pencil and the same strokes, it looks as if I've used 3 different colors. Okay? It's a little harder to tell on this document camera, so I'm going to pull it just a little bit closer. But again, I have the same color, but I have a light, with a lot more of the white paper showing through, medium, and heavy here, pressure. Okay, so that's one way that you can use your color pencils. Alright, we're going to look at the second way. Alright, number 2, we're going to talk about use of different types of strokes or mark making. Okay, if we were painting, we'd call them brush strokes. Okay, different strokes. I'm going to move my paper up here so that you can see it. Alright, again, I'm going to trace my quarter. Trusty little quarter here. And again, you could be doing this in pencil. I'm using the Sharpie so that it shows up a little bit on my screen so that you can see it. Alright, the first circle, I'd like for you just to call it straight. Also could call it just plain hatching. The second one, we're going to call it circles. And the last one, we're going to call it cross hatching. Alright, this time I'm going to use a different color, just because I like to switch it up just a little bit. I'm going to use, let's see, I pulled out blue. So, in the first box, I'm just going to use a medium pressure, so I'm going to have my hand kind of in the middle of my pencil here. And I'm just going to go back and forth, and it's just straight lines. Or hatching, just straight lines with a medium pressure. And you can go over it more than once if you'd like to color it in a little bit more. Okay? Circles is exactly what it sounds like. Little circles to color it in. And this usually takes a little bit of time, so a lot of people don't like to color in circles. But it does fill in the white of the paper just a little bit better. It takes a little more control too, I think. So a lot of people don't like to color in with crayons, circles. But this is good for small details, getting you closer to the line. It's good for covering up your streaks. If you tend to have streaky coloring, it'll help fill that in. It's good for any small, teeny, tiny areas or little bitty corners. Okay? And then cross hatching is you start out kind of the same way. It's the straight lines or the hatching. The straight lines. And then you turn your paper and you do the exact same thing again, but this time you're going perpendicular across your lines. So you're essentially making a bunch of crosses or crossing your T's, if that helps. Cross hatching. So as you can see, these two techniques though covered a lot more of the white of my paper than just straight hatching did. So that's another way or technique that you can use your color pencils. So these two techniques covered my white of my paper better than this one did. Okay? So pressure and different strokes. Alright, let's try layering. This is the number one way that I think most of you could use your color pencils so much better than what you do. Layering. One color just makes your objects look flat. You color in, and usually it's this very light, straight hatching way of coloring objects in, and it gives your objects a very flat, two-dimensional shape looking, and it doesn't make your three-dimensional objects that you're trying to do look three-dimensional at all. So I'm going to pull out the red, orange, and the orange colors, okay, because I'm going to use two colors for this. So the first thing again that I'm going to do is I'm going to trace my trusty little quarter here 3 times. Okay. Alright, so in this first one here, I'm going to just put regular old orange. In the second one, I'm going to put red, orange. And we're going to make a new color here. It's going to be a red, orange, orange. We could give it a really cool name at the end if we can think of something cool with it. If we can think of a really cool name. Alright, so like I said, the first one's going to be a nice orange. Just going to give it a nice medium tone. A straight hatching here. Then I'm going to do the red orange the same way. Medium tone of straight hatching. So, orange, red orange. Slight difference there. Okay? Now, I'm going to take the orange then I'm going to take the red orange and I kind of did a little bit of cross-hatching over that. Did you see how I did that? I did it orange this way and then I kind of did the red orange at a slant there to help get rid of and disguise any streakiness I had going on. And it's not that much of a difference, so I think I just kind of want to go over this just a little bit more here. I'm not putting any more pressure on this than I was before, but because I'm layering this a third layer here, this helps make it look like a totally different color than what we had before because we're using more than one color. Okay? By layering, you're combining these two colors to make a third color you didn't have before. Okay? And this is a good way to do this because we gave you a set of color pencils that only had 12 colors in it. So this way, this allows you to get some more colors, some different varieties that you didn't have before, just by adding different colors. Alright? And if I want to get it even darker, just go back over with the red orange if I needed to. So layering is always a good thing to do in color pencils, and I don't see a lot of students do that. Okay? Alright, so for our fourth technique, excuse me as I turn my notes here. Alright, blending. Blending is another thing that I don't see a lot of students do. They'll usually leave their color pictures like this, and they'll turn an otherwise nice drawing into kind of a messy looking picture because they don't take the time to do some blending. So number 4, blending. Now, there's actually 3 ways to do some good blending, 3 easier techniques to do with blending, but with the supplies that we've given you, you can really only do 2 of them. So I'm going to show you 2 of them. Okay, blending, so I've used my trusty quarter again, to trace 2 circles. The first one we're going to call blending with the lightest color. And the second one we're going to call blending with white. Okay? Alright, so let's say that I am using that red-orange again. So I've got my light orange again. I'm doing this fairly quickly, this part again. I want to show you what it's going to look like if you use the same color with the 2 different techniques. Alright, and then let's say I use the red-orange again. Again, I'm kind of cross-hatching it by just turning my hand a little here. Got all lines a little bit. Oops. Filling this in just a little bit more. Okay, those 2 colors are fairly close together. Okay, so with the lightest color, that's simply blending with the lightest color, is simply getting the lightest color that we used, in this case, orange, and I'm just going to go back over it very carefully, and I'm going to use that circle technique that we used before, the circle stroke, and I'm just very carefully with a medium pressure going over my strokes circle technique, medium pressure, and very carefully blending these different colors and these different strokes in together. And I'm just trying to make it look nice and neat and even all the way around. And if I have to turn my paper so that it makes it easier for my hand to get in there, that's okay too. So I want a nice solid, even color, even strokes. I want everything to blend. Blending is about making your object look smooth. So that's one way you can blend. There's still a few little pieces in there that I could smooth out. Another way that you can blend is by using your white color pencil. Now mine's a little dull, so I need to sharpen it. Get out my trusty little hand sharpener. Guys, you should always use your hand sharpener to sharpen your color pencils. You shouldn't use the sharpener on the wall. Color pencils have a lot more wax in them. That's what makes the pigment or the color, and that wax can build up on the pencil sharpener blades and dull it. Alright, so with the white color pencil, you're basically doing the same thing. I'm going in circles, and I'm pushing with pretty hard, not hard, but medium pressure, and I'm going around in circles, and I'm just trying to blend and smooth in all those brush strokes, and, well, not brush strokes, we're not using a paintbrush, but all those strokes and colors in together. Now the difference between the two is that the white pencil is going to add white pigment to my picture, which is going to lighten the colors out. Can you see how this one is lighter than this one? It's going to give it a more milky color to it and more milky texture to it. It's going to make it a little more soft, pastel-y looking. So you're just going to have to decide if you want that look or that texture to your finished picture. If you don't, then you're going to want to use the lighter color to it. If you do, then of course you're going to want to use the white color pencil. Now, if you've colored accidentally outside the lines like I have here, as long as you've colored kind of lightly, sometimes you can go back with a regular pencil and erase that out. Sometimes it works. If it's a real dark color and you've colored darkly, sometimes it won't work because the wax won't erase off as nicely. Alright, so they were the exact same colors, but two blending methods came up with two different ways to make two different colors. But both are blended very nicely. Alright? Okay, let's look at technique number 5 and technique number 6. Okay? Alright, technique number 5 is highlights. Creating highlights. Okay? Again, creating a highlight. Highlight is the white bright spot that happens on objects where the light hits the object. Okay? So when you're looking at something where a bright light is shining on it, there's going to be this white spot that occurs on it. So that's often called the highlight. Alright? So I'm going to use the violet, the light blue, and regular blue. Okay? So I'm going to use the light blue, and I'm going to first figure out where I want my light source. So if I've got a big bright light shining on this and the light's coming in from this direction, okay, then that means I'm going to have a highlight somewhere over here. So I'm going to use my light blue and just kind of draw it in there. Alright? Lightly trace that in there. So if this was a ball shape, then this is where the bright white spot would be. Alright? And then I'm going to use my color pencil, and I'm going to lightly color in the rest of the ball shape, or the sphere. We learned about that. It's a sphere with this light blue color. And color in the rest of the ball shape this color. One direction, all the same pressure. In this technique, we're using all of the other techniques combined. We got pressure, we got stroke, we're going to have layering, and we're going to have some blending. Okay? Alright. Right now it still looks kind of flat, but it has a white spot. Okay, next I'm going to use a medium color, which is going to be my blue, and I'm going to start darkening up where it's going to be darker. Well, if the light is over here, that means the opposite side is going to start to be the darker side. Okay, which gets us into our next part. Our last skill is shadows. So we're going to be putting our shadows on this same object. We're going to have shadowy parts on our object, and then we'll have shadowy parts cast by our object. I'm kind of using circles, combination of circle strokes and hatching strokes. And again, I'm using a light pressure because I can always add more. If I get too dark too fast, I cannot lighten it up or try to blend it in. And then I don't want harsh lines. And this would look better too if I had drawn my ball or sphere with pencil, because then I wouldn't have this big black cartoony looking outline. And then I'm going to take my violet right along this edge, the very, very darkest edge. I'm going to put just a little more dark. Just a little bit. Now I'm going to take the white and I'm going to, right inside this highlight, pure white, small circle shapes. And then I'm going to go ahead and blend everywhere else with the white. I'm going to try to blend in my dark, to my medium, to my light. And everybody said it's okay if you need to kind of turn your paper, especially when you need to get into these teeny tiny little curvy areas. Alright, I feel pretty good about that. Alright, but I'm not done. I have this nice looking sphere that looks three-dimensional, but I need a shadow on the ground. And some of you forget that. So I'm going to go back with my pencil, and I'm going to kind of trace, because the light's coming this way, that means the shadow is going to be cast this way. So I'm just going to draw a light circle with my pencil. Okay. And then I'm going to add, maybe with a touch of black, just a little. I'm going to add just a few hatchy lines. Not too much. Depends on the color of the surface that you would be drawing, what color this that you're going to be using. And this is all important because pretty soon you're getting ready to do a still life. Your next big assignment is going to be a still life. Okay? And depending on the color of the surface will determine what color your shadow is going to be. Alright, so I used a little bit of black, a little bit of purple, and a little bit of brown. Believe it or not, I did use a little tiny bit of purple in there. Okay? So black, brown, a little bit of purple, and now I'm going to use white to blend it all together. And I'm only going to blend on the shadow. I'm not going to mix the shadow into the ball shape or the sphere. I'm just going to keep it right inside this shadow. I don't want the black and the brown to get on top of my blue sphere. And there I go. I think I'm done. Oh, there's a tiny little space right there. So I'm done. And that is some good ways to use your color pencils, okay? And if you're ever coloring with crayons, you can pretty much use these same techniques with your crayons. They're just a little bit harder to use because a lot of times you don't have the nice solid tips that you may get with these color pencils with the sharpeners. Alright, so your next assignment is going to be a still life, which you'll get some more information about, but you will be expected to use some of these techniques. So I want you to follow along and do this video. Get you something small to trace. In my case, I used a quarter. Get you something small to trace and follow along my steps. Alright, so when you're finished, you'll have traced 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 circles and done these 6 different techniques. Alright, and if, again, don't forget, you can always pause, rewind this video to follow along with me. So 12 circles. Alright, folks, I can't wait to see how well you do with your color pencil techniques and skills. I'll see you later. Bye, folks. Stay safe. Be well.